Hello, I'm Professor Lieu. Welcome to our live stream. We have a special guest artist today to announce the June Art Dare. I want to introduce to you guys Julie Sharpe, and we're going to be talking to her about her sketchbook practice and how to make a zine. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof, critiques and tutorials. Now, as we take a look at Julie's work, if you guys want to reference what we're going to be talking about, just head on over to artprof.org, click on Art Dares, and the June Art Dare page is available. So you don't have to take notes. Everything is there waiting for you. Okay, so Julie has here this quarantine journal that she's been keeping for a little while. And Julie, where do you find inspiration for this type of thing? I know that oftentimes you're drawing your family members, like you have all these really hilarious drawings of your brother. So why your brother? Why is he such a frequent topic in your quarantine journal?
I think I find my brother really funny because, well, he's kind of a nerd, and so I really just enjoy I don't know, kind of poking fun of him or just like looking at the weird things that he does. Like he's always typing on his computer because he likes to write code. And so like I don't know, I'll be sitting in my room and I'll hear him like on his like computer. And so I like think it might be something fun to draw. And a lot of the like inspiration that I get is like just things that I find funny, interesting, or different, like something that you think is different about today than, say, yesterday or something.
Well, I do think a lot of people now are thinking about their lives pre quarantine and their quarantine lives. I know a lot of people really had to just completely shift all their schedules. My life is definitely not the same. And so, is this your way of documenting that, or is this just something to pass the time for you? What's really the purpose of these journals?
I think it's both. Like, I've always been really into journaling. I've kept like a diary since I was like a kid. But lately I've noticed that like visual journaling and documenting the things in sketch form actually feels like it helps me remember things better. And I feel like I can like associate with the memory more if I draw it. Um, and I don't know, I just really like sketching things anyways. So I think it's like a great way to pass time too. Yeah.
Well, we're looking at this image, Peter catching the wasp, and it's a
Oh, yeah.
pretty exaggerated sketch. How do you decide to draw him the way you draw him? Because in some of these, he looks more real. He looks more like what he looks like in real life. This one, you're exaggerating all his proportions, and that wasp is scary big. So, how do you make those choices in terms of the style you draw in? Because you draw in a lot of different styles.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll draw observationally and other times I'll draw more from like my imagination. So, I mean, there was a wasp in our home a few weeks ago and like my mom is like really scared of them and so like my mom and I were just like cowering in the corner while my brother like got like a fly swatter and was like being like a warrior. He was like, I got it. And so like I thought it would be fun to draw that, but like obviously you can't draw that whenever you're like in the moment because like I don't know, everyone's like running around. This wasp was like buzzing. It's like you can't just take out your sketchbook, but it's still like super funny, and I want to memorize like keep a memory of it. So I drew that one from imagination. Um, and so typically the more realistic drawings in my sketchbook are like probably from observation, but I do have quite a number of ones from imagination because I just find that like I mean it's kind of physically impossible to like stop in a moment and just be like I gotta draw this. So it's like you just I don't know, I just keep it in the back of my mind and I find that whenever I draw from like imagination, it's a little bit more cartoony. And I've learned to like embrace that. Like I don't know, I just try to accept the style that comes out whenever I draw from imagination because like everyone has one, and so yeah, I don't know. I just embrace it. So
Now, what
yeah.
has been your quarantine life? What has it been like for you? I know for me, I feel like I'm having a mood swing in terms of my work ethic. I have some days where I really want to get stuff done and I'm so on top of it. And then I have days where I just am a total slug and I have no motivation. So, what's been your quarantine life been like?
Yeah, I have a pretty similar experience to you. Some days are like I feel like I've got so much done, but then other days are like you just don't feel productive at all, and it's like you might feel like I don't know, negativity about your art practice or something, or it's like I'll get into like ruts of comparing myself to other people, but I think journaling is a really good way to like process those feelings. I mean, I've always done that in the past. Like, I have just like journals from middle school, high school, just like processing how I feel. And I think just keeping a record of things is a really helpful way to like notice like what you're thinking and how you're feeling, and maybe like get better, which I think it's helped me get better.
Tell me in the chat, you guys, is journaling something that you do regularly? Do you never do it? Do you do it every once in a while? I'm the worst, Julie. I never journal. And I know I should. I know it's a good practice. But for some reason, I can't get back into that rhythm. I was definitely into it when I was in college, but I suspect I have less time now. So maybe that's the reason. But I'm always so envious, I think, when I look at your journals, the way that you notice such ordinary things and you turn them into such hilarious drawings. And I just think it's so great that you can take something so mundane and make something really wonderful out of it. Now, what was remote learning like for you? Because we have this sketch here of you on a Zoom call looking at all these other students and maybe a teacher. So, what was that like this semester?
It was pretty chaotic, to say the least. It was a very abrupt transition, and so everything kind of, I mean, we all had to scramble home, which is in and of itself just a huge like task to do for everyone. But then the remote learning, it was definitely new for certain professors, like some like oil painting teachers hadn't really touched a computer probably their entire life. And so it was interesting to see them pick up an iPad for the first time. Um, yeah, it was, some were more organized than others. Like some teachers really had used online platforms before, and then other teachers like weren't really sure what they were doing. Um, and I don't know, there were always like awkward pauses in like the classes and stuff. And some people would have their video on and some people wouldn't. And some professors wanted you to have your video on and some didn't care. Um, and some went on like 5 hours. Like we had like 5 hour Zoom crits for a
I don't know
class. And that,
how the teachers did that because honestly, after an hour on a Zoom call, I am done. And I'm the
yeah,
professor. I don't know how anybody can take that. It seems
yeah,
crazy to me. And now you said there was a whole almost culture around the various activities that people were doing during Zoom calls. I mean, there were people tagging me on Instagram saying, yeah, I did these sketches during a Zoom call. And somebody else was like, yeah, I'm watching this live while I'm on a Zoom call. All these activities.
yeah.
So, what's the funniest activity that you found yourself doing during a Zoom call? And tell me in the chat, have you guys done something other than be on the Zoom call when you were on a Zoom call?
Oh yeah. I mean, oh wait, are you asking me what's the
Yeah,
funniest thing I've, or
the
oh, okay. Um, Probably like eating pork ribs while in a meeting with my classmates. Because I've gotten really into baking lately, and so like I don't know, my mom bought some like ribs the other day, and so I like was so excited and I like put them in the oven, but then like I had a Zoom class, and so it was like gonna be a long one too. So I was like, okay, I gotta eat these ribs, and so I started eating the ribs, but then my call started, and so I just like I got on the call, but then I turned my video off and I turned my mute on. But like the whole time, I was just like devouring these ribs, and I was like triple checking the like video button because I was like, okay, did I like turn it off? Because if these people see me like devouring ribs in this political science class, they're gonna think I'm so weird. Um, and yeah, it's also like that. Like, I mean, everyone has to go to the bathroom at some point, but it's like I mean, there's this decision, the decision, like, do I go to the bathroom and like hold my phone and keep on listening to this thing, or like, do I like go off and then risk having them like hear the echo of me peeing like in the Zoom call? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of stressful and like you don't really know what to do. Some people are more comfortable with it than others. Like, I was on a live stream once and this dude just started like going to the bathroom while talking and like like it's people have different levels of privacy and we all just weren't really ready to like get this super intimate glance into people's lives, I
Well,
think.
let's see. In the chat, Kira says that she played Animal Crossing. Alyssa says she doodled or ate. Delaney is playing Sims 4. May is either watching us or playing the ukulele. Wow, I like that we are one of the options. Delilah always sketches and draws. And a couple people are saying no Zoom calls, haven't experienced it. You know what? Consider that a blessing because Zoom is exhausting. Like, I would always take a nap after I ran these Zoom calls. And I wasn't running ones that were 5 hours long. I was running like three in a row, and each one was an hour, and I had 15 minutes in between. And even that I found really difficult. And you said that you'd always learn things about your professors. Like, didn't you discover that one of your professors had a cat?
Oh yeah. Well, he had like a cat and a kid who would like run in and out of his Zoom call. And then his cat would like leap onto the keyboard and like weirdly meow. And like another one of my professors, like he's basically totally dependent on his wife for like helping him with like technological issues. Like he's like, come over here, like how do I like share my screen or like how do I like close this browser or something, and like she was basically doing the class, but like I don't know, like you just get glances into people's lives that you really aren't expecting. You see people's like home spaces, um and it's also interesting to see like who turns their video on and who turns their video off. like like a lot more girls in my classes did that than guys. Like all the guys, whenever they turned their video on, they would be like in these like super like dark hoodies in like their basement or something. Like there's like a sketch that I made of this guy. Like he just looks absolutely ominous. He's like in a hoodie, you can't really see his eyes. He's like hunched over and like he's just in my like Zoom class like for politics of Latin America and like speaking about whatever political movement. It just he looked so ominous, but like yeah, weird stuff happens on
There
there.
really is almost a Zoom culture. Aurora is saying, I took a nap once. Whoops. Celine says, I get so bored. And Moonbeam says, I love when teachers have their little kids on the call. It's so cute. Oh, Blue Wolf Spirit, you hear a little bit of an echo. You know, maybe I should turn down my audio just a little bit. We're probably getting a tiny bit of feedback. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that is fixed now. Okay, so for the June Art Dare, you guys have a lot of different options for how you want to do it. So you can just do it in your sketchbook. If that's easier for you, that totally makes sense. But we were thinking we'd give you guys some options because you know what? Making a book is so satisfying. There's something about it that I just really enjoy. And it doesn't have to be a fancy book. I mean, Julie made this wonderful PDF that you guys can download off of our website. And this is basically a zine that is created out of a single sheet of copy paper. So what's fun about this, Julie?
I really love the like copy paper format, because you can like make things into zines so easily. Like I really do love making like, very long zines and stuff, but sometimes they can be a little bit intimidating to start that whole process. And I really like that like zines can be like it can be one sheet of paper that's like folded into smaller pieces, or you can like make it into like a really long formatted thing. Um, yeah, and the thing that I like about zines is that there's just so many different ways that you can make one. They can be like different shapes, different sizes, different lengths. And I think it gives people a lot of flexibility to try to express what they want. And that's what I'm looking for too, like in my practice. So,
Well, the other thing that I like about the zine format is that it's not like you're starting a 100-page sketchbook that you
yeah.
feel is this lifelong journey of your existence. And the zine is so accessible and it's fast. I mean, I feel like if you guys feel so inclined, you could, and we're going to go over, do the Art Dare Leap, which is basically do one zine a week. And if you make it small and it's just one sheet of paper, you could totally manage it, because I know a lot of people, you just get really overwhelmed by just the sheer quantity of beginning a sketchbook, and the zine really feels like there's actually a finish that's not 3 years away, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like it can be a really quick process. Like I'm actually working on another zine right now. It's like one of those single paper ones, and like I started it like last night and I'm about to like do the final draft like tonight. So it's a really quick process. And you can make as many of them as you want. You can turn them inside out and like use the back for more pages. You can like staple them together. You have so many options. It's really nice.
Alyssa is saying, how do you stay motivated to draw and journal outside of school? That's a really good question, because Julie, you are so productive. I mean, I always gave assignments to students to do a certain amount of journaling every single week because people were at home and everything. But a lot of my students really had a hard time doing it. And you would just come in with just loads and loads of sketches. So how do you stay motivated?
Um, I think for me, like, well, I would submit a lot of like sketches that like were not they were not super developed, but like it's just I have like a lot of quantities of them. Um, I don't know. How do I stay motivated? I just like filling up my sketchbook. Like it feels really good to like write things down. And I'm someone who like really likes to reflect on things, and like if I see like a really beautiful like shadow on like a patch of grass or something, or if I had a really nice walk in the neighborhood, or if my brother and I like we saw these really cute geese hopping up some rocks, and like those are things that I really want to remember, and that they're like really precious to me. So I think just like noticing the this might sound like corny or something, but like noticing like beauty and stuff in everyday life, um, and being able to reflect on that is something that's really important to me. So I think like I don't know. I think it's a really fulfilling process to me. And I think like for a lot of people, if you just start like noticing like weird and funny things that happen, it can really like enrich your life.
I really like it, Julie, because I feel that so much of the time everybody's in such a rush. And when I stop and I just look at something, like I'm looking at my desk right now, which is a disaster, and I'm just looking at this mug of erasers. That is so weird. Like, who else has this mug? And they're all the same eraser. Why do I have 18 Mars Stadler erasers? And then there's a Coptic stitch needle that's hanging out. And I feel like that would make a beautiful little story. So things don't have to be
Uh,
so grand to be interesting to draw. In fact, sometimes I like the more humble moments quite a bit. Like, for example, there was one day I was eating breakfast and I was just looking at these orange peels on my plate and I thought, wow, those are really beautiful. I'm going to draw those right now. So it doesn't have to be
yeah,
anything grand.
totally. Um, I was gonna say something, but
We'll
I
come back to
forgot.
you. Builder D says, I think there's an art prof Coptic stitch. It's a good activity for watching TV, like knitting. Once you gain the hang of it, though harder than this. Yes, you know what, Builder D? You read my mind because the
Oh,
Coptic stitch artist book is another option. I mean, this really is a sketchbook full out, but it is somewhat of a repetitive motion. And especially when you're making the signatures, which are the actual packs of paper that you then assemble and put together. That, I mean, Eloise tells me, because she leads this tutorial, she's like, yep, I just put on music and I just jam out while I fold papers for 2 hours. So it is a really fun, almost mindless activity. But we also have this Lotus Fold artist book, which is so sculptural and interactive, and it's just really impressive when you open it up. And you know something? You don't have to make it with fancy supplies. I mean, what you could do is make the Lotus Fold. You could just use copy paper, and if you want to, you could just skip the cover. So don't feel that this journal has to be anything complicated. It can be very, very humble. But you can also go full out, bone folder and Reeves BFK if you want. It's totally cool. Whatever's up to you guys. And also, we have Lauren's visual journaling tutorial, which is another approach where you do mixed media with collage and markers and stickers and stamps. So if you guys want ideas for different media, this is also a great way to go about doing that. Now, Julie, what about media? Are there certain art media that you think are better suited for making art books and zines?
Yeah, for me, I tend to stick with things that I can work with like quickly and that like don't smudge a lot, because like if you're trying to draw quick things in a sketchbook, it can be kind of difficult. Like if you have a charcoal stick and it's like it'll smudge over everything and like kind of messes up the drawing. So for me, I really like working with brush pens, like those water basin pens that you can like dip into like portable watercolor packs. I really like, I don't know, pens and markers, different things that like won't bleed too. Because like I do like Copic markers because they have like a nice tone, but then they can like bleed. So basically anything that I can use quickly and that can like leave a lot of value. Like I really like brush pens because you can like fill in an entire page just like in like 5 seconds, and it's like you don't have to like deal with the white of the page anymore.
And so what about paper? Because if somebody does decide, oh, I want to make a Lotus Fold or I'm going to make the zine or anything, do you have any suggestions for what paper to use? I mean, people should just use what they have, but if you have the option, what would you choose?
Well, for my sketchbook, I have like a nice thicker kind of like paper. It's not exactly like a watercolor paper or like a mixed media paper or anything. It's just, I don't know. It's a Strathmore or Pentalic or something. And I've just like, I don't know. I've gone through like probably 30 or 40 sketchbooks. Like each one is different, and I've just tried to find out like which sketchbook is the best. And I think this one is probably like one of the top ones. So yeah, I've just like experimented a lot with different types of paper. I would say like whenever you're trying to decide on a paper to work with, just like test out a bunch of things, like get like a marker that is like kind of wet, and then just like, you know, scribble on a bunch of different types of paper and then see which ones that you like. If you're going to be working with watercolor, test out watercolor on a piece of paper before you make like an entire book out of it. And I know that it's hard to go to an art store, so just try to look around your house and like see what's out there. Like maybe like you could upcycle a book or something and like draw on top of that or something. Yeah, just try a bunch of different papers.
I think the most important thing is that whatever material you draw with, that it doesn't bleed through the paper. Because especially with that zine, what I think is really fun is when you actually draw and write on both sides, and then the zine really becomes this three-dimensional object. Like Micronix is asking in the chat, is watercolor paper okay? Watercolor paper would be great because it's very durable, it's nice and thick, the markers aren't going to bleed. Anything you guys have is fine. And you know, you don't have to use Copic markers, you can use something else. But I think it does help to think about that because you are folding it. It does need to be paper that is a little bit more rigorous. Okay, so let's talk about some tips, because this idea of keeping a quarantine diary, it's pretty broad, and some of you guys may already know what you want to do, but I think for some people it's like, oh my goodness, well, where do I get started? And so you had talked earlier about just looking around your house, and a lot of us are stuck in our houses, And I'm showing right now this sketch. It says honey bear taking a bath. What is this?
So we have this container of like honey in my house that we've had for like years. But like whenever honey gets old enough, it like crystallizes and turns solid. And so in order to like rejuvenate the honey and make it liquid again, you have to like heat it up in like a pan or something or like warm it up. And so my brother was doing that and like I just thought it looked like a little bear taking like a bath in a thing of water. I don't know, I thought it was like a cute moment. And so I wanted to draw that. Um, I would say that if you're looking for like subject matter, um, if you happen to be like an introspective and awkward person, you could start there. I know that for me, like I always feel self-conscious. I always notice things, and there are a lot of people that will tell you like, you don't have to be like that. You should just be confident and like, it's fine. But I find that like for me, you can't just like force those things to go away. So if you can integrate that into like your practice or something, it can make you feel a lot more confident in being so awkward. So like I was at the park the other day. Um, there were a bunch of these like teenagers there and they were like blasting rap music and like trying to be so cool. And I was just like, I feel so awkward and like weird here. Like I was just trying to draw some trees and then like all these kids come in and like they're trying, I don't know, I don't know why I was intimidated because I'm 20 years old, but like yeah, so I just felt awkward and so I started just like doodling how I was feeling. Like I drew the scene a few times. Someone named their dog like Kylo, which I thought was weird, and so I like drew that. People were walking around talking about Crocs, and I drew that, and like I was just feeling uncomfortable, but I was like being aware of it and like actually writing it down. And that was really helpful for me because like you can't just make yourself not feel awkward, but it helps if you like actually acknowledge what you're feeling and you like write it down and you can make something out of it.
Well, Julie and I always have this joke that Julie would make a great CIA agent because she's so good at recording the scene and eavesdropping on conversations. And so maybe if you guys try to occupy that for this month. We've got some good honey bear stories, Julie. Lisa H says, I've done the honey heat, microwave melted the bear. Oh,
Oh
that's so
no.
sad. That
Oh,
makes me really, really sad that that happened. And Moonbeam says, didn't know you could do that. I'll keep that in mind. I didn't know that either. I just learned it. And I have a giant thing of honey that's in my cabinet right now that's crystallized. Now I know what I'm going to do after the stream.
oh yeah. Wait, but be careful though. Like you wanna if you put it in like a thing of water, don't make the water too hot to like touch. You basically have to because then the plastic will melt if the water gets too hot.
Yeah,
So
Lisa H told us about this. So
yeah. So make
now
sure
another tip that Julie was going to tell you guys about is this idea of just writing down what you hear people say. So what happened here? Because on this page, I believe it's a picture of your mother, and it says Cable is dead. What is going on in this scene, and what got her to say that?
like we were having this conversation about how like streaming services are like taking over the internet and how people really aren't relying on TV anymore. And like my mom was just like, yeah, cable's dead. And so like I thought that was such a like weird aggressive phrase to just like say. Um and like no one else thought it was weird, but I was just like, that's weird. Like she's so weird. And so I just wrote that down. But like people say really weird things. Like or people try to like act in certain ways. Like some people like it's really funny whenever you notice people, especially like young people trying to look cool. Like that's always the funniest to me because like I can kind of relate to that. But yeah, people just say like weird things.
Alyssa is saying, I was on the train. I heard some boys talk about their teacher. Then I drew what I imagined what their teacher would look like based on the conversation. See, that's brilliant because I've had a lot of people say to me, I'm stuck at home. I don't have anything to draw. it's not that you don't have anything to draw, it's just that you're not looking at things in a way that lets you notice what you can draw. Because I feel like whenever I draw on site, I have a very particular way of searching for things that I want to draw. And I like noticing things that other people don't notice, like a dirty pipe on the street in China, to me is beautiful. I'm sure to other people, it's like, ew, I don't want to draw that. But I think, like we said before, just slowing down and noticing this random thing of styrofoam cups on my desk, why is that there? I have no idea, but it might make a really cool sketch. All right, so we have another tip. And the other one is, what are some things that you guys are now doing? And tell me in the chat that you're doing now during quarantine that you never did before. Because I think we all are doing new things that never happened before. Like you have this sketch, Julie, that says, I only visit my friends in my dreams. So what does that mean for you?
Oh, sorry, it like froze for a
Yeah,
second.
first for a sec. You're
Um,
back.
so I have like since I was like very young, I've always had really vivid dreams. And sometimes they're so interesting that I like to draw them. And the best ones now are the ones where I dream that I'm visiting my friends and we're all like together and just like talking. Like I had this dream a few weeks ago that like it was like a drawing class and we were all in this orchard together and we were all like eating dinner together. It was like really nice. And like yeah, so I only visit my friends in my dreams is like it applies to the situation because it's like I'm just at home and all my other friends are at home, so I miss everyone.
Well, life
Yeah.
really has changed a lot for people. For example, Sydney123 says, I've actually FaceTimed my sisters more in quarantine, probably than I have in 2 years. Allison Edwards says, I've been practicing drawing a lot of nature from life, practicing using watercolor colored pencils. Sterling says, quarantine and art prof got me to sketch my mirror reflection and also TV characters. That's right, because that was the May art dare. And Blue Wolf Spirit says, I see my friends much more now via Zoom. Yeah, so that's, I think, a good way to document how your life is now, because I can't imagine that any of us are going to forget this experience, this moment in our lives. And that's why I think it's really interesting to do this quarantine diary. All right, guys, you want to know what the Art Dare Leap is? For those of you who want to get ambitious, or for those of you who maybe want to have a little more structure for what to do. So, week one is to include speech bubbles in your diary of things you hear people say. Like, for example, Julie, there's this funny one. It says, do you have skim? Cappuccino breast. What is up with that image?
Oh, I've been talking to my friend Dan a lot, like during quarantine. We just like call each other a lot and we just gossip. But like he is really funny and I always generate like ideas for cartoons the most whenever I talk to him. And so we were talking about like, oh, like what if there was like a woman breastfeeding, but like the baby was super picky and he was just like putting milk in his like frappuccino. He's like, can you get skim next time? Like, I don't like the whole milk that you have or something. So yeah, I thought that would be fun to make a cartoon of or something.
So yeah, make
Um,
speech bubbles, guys, and look up how people do speech bubbles, because there's so many different styles of speech bubbles out there, and I think that in itself would be a really cool challenge. Week two of the Art Dare Leap is to add some collage element. So Julie, we're looking at the slide right now. It looks like a suburban street in the evening. Is this a photo you took, or did you find it somewhere?
oh yeah, I took that photo. Is it the one with the orange
Yep.
light and like oh yeah. Yeah, so I was like taking a walk the other day with my brother and I just really liked how the street light was like kind of it just kind of laid across the pavement really nicely. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really liked that. So I took a photo of it and then I just put it into the zine. And I've been like getting more into photography and stuff lately, so I thought it would be nice. I've also like scanned flowers that I've picked up on walks and put them into the diary, just because I think they're very sweet. And yeah, you could like scan tickets or things that you've had, or like receipts from grocery stores or like anything really. I think collage is a great way to add stuff to the journal.
I also think if you look around your house, think about how many things you can collage. I feel like cereal boxes, cookie boxes, or junk mail. There's a lot of things around the house that you can quickly find. I mean, it is fun when you take your own photo and you can print it out, but I do like the spontaneity of just reacting to whatever shapes or colors are on that cereal box. What do you do with that? And I remember when I was traveling in Europe, anytime I went to an art museum, I would always save the ticket and I would always put the ticket into my sketchbook. And it was just a great way to remember where I had been and what I had done. So have fun with the collage element, you guys, because it's really, really cool. Okay, week 3 of the Art Dare is to work entirely from your imagination. Now, you guys know I'm a big life drawing nerd, and so is Julie. You do a lot of these plein air sketches, which are absolutely beautiful. But you also do a lot of stuff out of your head. Now, I hope this sketch is out of your head. There's this creepy guy saying, "Come back, let me pop those pimples." Where did this come from? I hope it's from imagination.
Oh yeah, totally. So I was again talking to my friend Dan, and for some reason he's like really into those pimple popping videos, and like I we were like talking about it was like right after we first met. Like I was working as like I was working in his building basically, and he was an RA for the summer program. Um, and he would just like hang out with me while I was on my shift. Um, and then like I had this pimple this one day, and I was like complaining to him. I was like, "Damn, like there's a big pimple on my chin, and like I'm gonna have to pop it, and it's gonna be so gross." And he was like, "Oh my God, can I do it for you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so weird." And like he's like, "No, my mom does it with me all the time. Like I just like we just everyone just pops each other's pimples." And I was like, "That's so weird." And so like I just drew this little thing of him being like, "Come back here, let me pop your pimples," because like he's so like it was so weird. Like he was literally like, "Can I do it for you?" Like, uh, yeah, that was from imagination. So
Yeah, Lisa H, you know something else though? These are not what you think they are in terms of pimple popping videos. Because I just imagined it was people like squeezing stuff, but it's not. It's like surgical, which is so terrifying to me.
yeah, like people get really into it.
Yeah, it's
Like
not my cup of tea, but I know some people, whatever floats your boat. If that keeps you occupied, fine. Um, but tell me in the chat, do you guys work from imagination? Because I'll tell you, I would find this to be a real challenge because I rarely draw from imagination, and drawing from imagination can be tricky. How do you go about doing it, Julie? Is it very intuitive and spontaneous, or do you have more of a sequence?
I think I like whenever I was in high school, especially, I would struggle with like drawing from observation versus drawing from imagination because I felt like the styles that I drew in were like so different that like it was impossible to combine them. But as I've been sketching more through college and everything, I've realized that a lot of the skills that you learn from observational drawing really help you with drawing from imagination. Especially if you start experimenting with your observational drawings. Like if you say, "Oh, I want to draw this tree in a more like flat style," or "I want to draw this tree in a really like pattern style," or something. Like if you use observational drawing as like an opportunity to experiment with a lot of different techniques, then it'll really help you whenever you draw from like your imagination because you'll have this like language that you've built up in your head, and yeah, it really makes things a lot easier. So like definitely don't just draw from imagination all the time, but like it can be a really fun way to express things that like are in your memories or that were too quick to photograph or you know do anything about. So it's definitely a valid skill, but like always remember to combine it with your observational practice too.
Well, Julie, Zara would like to know what camel booger is all about. Can you explain yourself?
Camel booger. Wait, which page is
It's
that
it's
on?
on the same pimple page. There's a little cup, and it says failed film critic tries to figure out rebrand during quarantine, and it says camel booger next to it.
Okay, that was a that was a YouTube video, the failed film critic one, but the camel booger, I think that was also another conversation with my friend Dan. He was like, he was saying something about like how there was this pimple that like looked like a camel booger or something. Yeah. So gross stuff.
Yeah, how did we get into the pimple booger camel territory? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys want to do the Art Dare Leap, week 4 is to go wordless and to not include any text because I think a lot of people do associate diaries with writing and text. But I think the idea of a wordless diary is really beautiful. There's a lot of illustrators who do wordless picture books. For example, David Weisner is known for that. Also, Quentin Blake. He's the illustrator who illustrated those Roald Dahl books, if you guys remember those growing up. He illustrated a book called Clown. It's 100% just images. And so I think that's a really cool challenge to, well, okay, how do you actually express your thoughts without using that text? So you guys can check out Julie's stuff on her Instagram. And so she's got tons of sketchbooking on there. Sorry, this slide is, there we go. Okay, so Julie is on Instagram at Julie Sharpe Art, and lots of stuff on there. Never a dull moment on Julie's Instagram for sure. And wow, we got a lot of comments about drawing from imagination. Let's see. 10,000 Crows says people who work from imagination are so intimidating. Like, how do you do it? Yeah, I'd like to know too, 10,000 Crows, because I can't do it. And Julie Benjamin Nguyen is saying we all need a muse like your friend Dan.
Yeah, that's true. If you guys find a muse, just hold on to them because they're very good.
So a reminder, the way the Art Dare works is you guys, first of all, submit your work by posting it on Instagram, tagging us, art.prof. You also want to use hashtag ArtProfDare so we can find you. And then at the end of the month, we usually have a featured entries video, which let me tell you is getting harder to get into because you guys are just going nuts with these art dares, which I love. I think the last art dare we had over 100 entries, which is amazing. So we really want to see what you guys are making. And we do give out honorable prizes. We also have prize winners. We have critiques you guys can win. You can also win a box of mystery art supplies if you are a US resident. So please submit because you guys did such an amazing job with the May Art Dare, and I can't wait to see what you guys do, especially when we do something that's about current events. I think it's especially important because we're all on the same page right now, unfortunately, because of the world situation. Let's see, Heba saying, I kind of feel like the diary will get too personal. I'll become weird about sharing it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a concern. I think if you just make the decision that there are certain topics you don't want to talk about, that might be a good way to do it, is just give yourself some rules. Like, okay, I'm not going to mention my partner, or I'm not going to talk about my children, and these are the subjects I'm going to focus on. That might be a good way to do. Sydney is asking, do we just share our best work from the diary or compilation? Totally up to you, Sydney. I mean, you guys, we had some people the last May Art Dare who were hardcore, posting almost any day, and people really made progress. I mean, you could see it was so visible. So it's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do. Julie, any thoughts about private, public? How do you deal with some of the sensitivity of some of those subjects? How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who writes their like angsty, weird thoughts in my sketchbook. And I'm always like weird about people seeing it sometimes. I'm like, don't read that one. Like, I'll just be like, flip past that one, okay? Like, so yeah, I definitely have like things like about privacy. I would say like sharing it on social media, just keep in mind that like anyone could see it. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing something, you totally don't have to. Yeah, just do what makes you feel comfortable. Like some people are really comfortable talking about like their bodies or something. Some people like are like I just want to draw a tree and that's it. And like that is totally fine. Whatever makes you comfortable, you got to decide that.
Mei is saying, pages and pages full of camel boogie buckets. Wow, that sounds like your next assignment, Julie. I think you're going to have to tackle that and tag us so we can see a visualization of that subject. By the way, you guys, if you are not on Instagram, just so you know, we're no longer accepting submissions on Facebook and email. Instead, if you guys go to the Art Dare page on artprof.org, we now have this Art Dare entry form where you guys can just upload your stuff. The one thing is, though, we prefer that you guys submit via Instagram. So if you submit via Instagram, don't also submit the form, because then it's extra work for us to have to go through everything. So Instagram is best, but if you don't have social media, it's completely fine. We do have this submission form. So again, everything you guys need to do this Art Dare, it's all on the June Art Dare page on artprof.org. And I'm going to be on Discord for a little bit after the stream. If you guys want to ask me more questions or brainstorm a little bit, I'd be happy to chat with you guys about that. And remember, you want to subscribe to our channel and join the Art Prof family. And thank you so much for our top Patreon supporters. Thank you to everybody who entered our spring raffle. Wow, you guys really came through for us. We are going to do the raffle drawing in about a week or so, but I have to tell you guys, we would not be here if you guys were not here. You guys really make this community exactly what it is. Oh, one more question from Yellow Hat Art says, can we make a quick video showing all of our diary at the end of the month? That's a great idea, Yellow Hat Arts. I think that would be really fun to share. And if you guys put it in your story, we'll share your story so everybody can see what everybody else is up to. All right, guys. Hope you'll do the Art Dare. Stay safe. We will see you next time.